The Radio Wammo Breakfast.
The best ideas are free with Ben Young from Bwaggy.com.
BWAGY.com. In fact, he's had a weekend of ideas at the Auckland Startup Weekend.
Good morning.
Startup, now this wasn't a car convention, was it?
No, it wasn't a car convention. Basically, Startup Weekend is a weekend where a whole lot of entrepreneurs, ideas people, developers, designers, people that can help build it get together and they all work on building a business in 48 hours. So really, really cool.
It's the business version of the 48-hour film festival, which we're going to talk about later on.
Exactly. Yeah. So same kind of thing. Of course, the mic's just playing about.
Yeah, it's on the left.
I was really keen on this. The reason I first came on this show was to talk about my book, and one of the first idea in that book was the 12-hour startup.
Yeah.
And that was talking about having events like this.
Yeah. Because
all of us hold on to these ideas, and then one day we finally tell someone about it, and then quite often we immediately find out why it isn't viable.
Okay.
And
it was a pressure cooker weekend.
Yeah.
And what have you got there? Is it a competing element?
Yeah. So basically, what happened was 52 people registered. There were some mentors over the weekend, a lot of experienced and talented people who came in and mentored the startups.
Any names that we would sort of know, or they just people who get down to work and do what they do?
There were 20 mentors, so a lot of names there.
Yeah.
But so on Friday, everyone came in. They all pitched their ideas, and I think out of 52 people, there were maybe about 20 ideas, which in my mind is amazing that there were 20 people that were willing to stand up in front of an audience and go, this is my idea, let's give it a shot.
Yeah.
Then after that, there were a couple of rounds of voting when people said, oh yeah, I'd like to see this one or this one happen, and that was just done through putting your name on a card. And so that happened and was distilled down to 7 startups. And they were, now these startups changed over the weekend, but on Friday they were called Goal Buddy, which was a system to help you achieve your goals. Real Worth, which was kind of a food community to help you identify healthy food that's good for you. There was Mortgage Online, which was to help you get the best mortgage rates online. There was Hotspot, which was it's basically finding out the hotspots in a town.
Like Wi-Fi hotspots.
Yeah. And there was a fashion wardrobe app. But by the end of the weekend, we had Goal Buddy turned into Sidekick, because throughout the weekend you start getting feedback on your idea and it moulds and it evolves upon that, and as the team works together. And so Sidekick was an online platform still to achieve your goals, but there were a lot of game theory in there. And what they'd do is you'd list your goal, then they'd match you up with someone else who had a similar goal, and then it was like through a nickname kind of basis, so it was kind of anonymous, but you're still connecting with a real person, just to help connect those people up. Real Worth was still the same. It was just a bit more distilled by the end of the weekend. Mortgage Online did a pivot, and by the end of the weekend it was Regauge.
Okay.
And so what that is online platform to jump on, enter your current mortgage details, and then they'll tell you whether or not it's worth breaking your current contract and remortgaging.
Right.
And if it is, you can call them up and the process can be handled in 2 20-minute conversations, I think. And so that really caught our eye, because mortgages such big business in New Zealand. We're a very property focused economy. But as they identified, I think there were $115 billion of mortgages taken out at a time where interest rates were 7-8%. So that's a whole lot of mortgages you could get to remortgage and switch to a lower rate.
Right. Yeah.
Hotspot was still the same, just a bit better by the end of the weekend, and the mobile wardrobe becoming Fashion Spire.
So the process over the weekend, was it not only developing the idea but putting together a business plan, and then also sourcing capital funding?
So basically, at the end of the weekend, we wanted to look at how the ideas have progressed, how much they'd executed over the weekend, innovation, the breakthrough potential, and the viability of the firm. So
and how are they demonstrating that?
Yeah, so after 24 hours, there were a set of presentations so everyone could see how everyone was going. And I think it was definitely a kick up the butt for some people, because some people definitely had a clear head start, whilst others had more thought or more development time and back and forth.
Yeah.
And then at 9 o'clock last night, was it 9 o'clock? No, 7 o'clock, they did their presentations. And so there was a 5-minute presentation to the judges. I was one of the judges.
Almost like an elevator pitch.
Yeah. And then 5 minutes Q&A.
Okay.
So that's actually really difficult because so much work goes into those 48 hours. Then it all essentially does come down to what you deliver in that time.
So is it similar to a Dragon's Den sort of format in that pitch?
Kind
session?
of, because they had such a limited time frame to answer questions. We were trying to get questions to them real quick so we can extract as much information from them.
And so in that process, they're trying to convince the judges, if the judges had money, to give up some money.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
Was this an idea that you could invest in and it could scale?
Yeah.
So at the end of the weekend, we had to judge it, and judging was really, really tough.
Yeah, I bet.
Like, there were several clear groups of what people had done in terms of executing, developing the business plan. Is it actually viable? Is this an idea we'd all invest in? So we kind of sat down as judges and said, as a gut feel, before we get into the nitty-gritty details, because we scored all of them, who would you invest in? And the interesting thing is, I don't think any of us had the same pick.
Huh.
So it was actually quite challenging. But once we scored it, looked at all the details, and we looked at what they'd accomplished over the weekend and what the potential for unlocking and growing that business over the next 12 months, the winners became very clear. And it was really neck and neck for first and second. But Taxi Surfer took out the first spot. And Taxi Surfer is just, at the moment, it's an iPhone app, but I think they'll make it on other phones. What it is, you load in your details, and you're out and about, and instead of ringing for a taxi or trying to hail down a taxi, just say, I want to ride now. It detects your location, sends it to a bunch of taxi drivers.
Yeah.
And they'll come back to you saying, oh yeah, I can pick you up and take you home, it's $20, and you can say yes or no.
Cool.
And there's a bit of a trust ranking in there in terms of you can see how people have scaled them.
It's almost like the taxi version of Builder's Crack, where you put out I've got a job that needs doing, and they put in quotes. Yeah,
exactly. And these guys did a lot of thought into the business development, how they'd spread it, how they'd grow it. They actually talked to some lawyers to see the legalities of this, and they actually virtually built the app over the weekend.
Wow.
So these guys achieved a heck of a lot in all the key categories.
Yeah. So they took it out. So did they get financing? Is there investment?
So basically, there was some prize pools which included business consulting, business development, some promotional videos, some market research, and part of that consulting would help them get to a finance stage.
Yeah, brilliant.
So really, really
what a cool thing. So this happens annually.
So Startup Weekend was started in the States. And basically, it's a crowdsourced thing. If you want to take it up and set it up locally, you just liaise with them, and they have a set of guidelines, and you pull it together. So,
is there any political element to this? Were any politicians present, sort of seeing how this works and how it goes? No, okay.
No, this was the first one in New Zealand. I suspect the next ones there will be. So I hear there's going to be another one in Auckland at some point soon. Well, they've just had one, but there'll be one in Wellington and hopefully Christchurch and maybe Dunedin.
Brilliant! What a great thing.
Later this year. It's amazing.
If you want to see how the weekend unfolded, you can always search for the hashtag on Twitter, can't you?
Yeah, which is Auckland Startup, AKLSW, or you can go to auckland.startupweekend.org, and there's tons of videos. You can see all the, I'm not sure if they're live yet, but you'll be able to see all the pictures, the companies, and how the weekend went. There were tons of photos and videos taken. Really, really engaging. And it was an amazing experience for everyone. Everyone I talked to said, look, my level of knowledge has been really stretched and extended this weekend, even though we didn't win. What I walk away with is worth so much more. And that's what really excites me about it. We've suddenly got 52 people that are now better armed to deliver and execute global ideas.
Brilliant. There you go. Fantastic. Well, you can always talk to Ben more about this on Twitter, twitter.com/Bwaggy, BWAGY, and also BWAGY.com as well.
Excellent.